I should have known something was wrong the moment I saw the white dress. My name is Poppy, and I've spent 26 years being the responsible daughter, the one who fixes things, the one who makes sacrifices so everyone else can shine. Tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight was supposed to be mine. I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home, clutching the steering wheel as I stared at the house blazing with lights. Cars lined the street, way more than I'd expected for my law school graduation party. My stomach fluttered with nervous excitement. Maybe Mum had actually gone all out for once. Maybe this time I'd get the recognition I'd been craving my entire life. The front door burst open before I could even knock. "Poppy! Finally!" My sister Sadie practically bounced down the porch steps, her blonde hair perfectly curled, her smile radiant. And that dress, flowing white silk that caught the porch light like she was some kind of angel. "Why are you wearing white to my graduation party?" I asked, but she was already grabbing my arm, pulling me toward the house. "Come on, everyone's waiting." The living room was packed. Aunt Beatrice held court by the fireplace, gesturing wildly with a wineglass. Dad's friend Jose sat on the couch, looking uncomfortable in his good shirt. Nicholas, Sadie's boyfriend, stood near the kitchen doorway in an expensive suit, his dark hair slicked back like he was posing for a magazine cover. "There she is!" Mum appeared from nowhere, wrapping me in a quick hug that smelled like her signature perfume and stress sweat. "Honey, you look tired. Did you drive straight from the library again?" "I drove from my apartment, Mum, where I've been living for the past 2 years while finishing law school." She waved a dismissive hand. "Well, you're here now. That's what matters." I scanned the room, looking for some sign that this was about me. No congratulations graduate banner, no photos of me in my cap and gown. Instead, white flowers everywhere, roses, lilies, baby's breath. The kind of arrangements you see at... Oh my God! The words slipped out before I could stop them. Sadie clapped her hands together, her engagement ring catching the light like a disco ball. "Surprise!" The room erupted in cheers and applause. Nicholas moved to Sadie's side, sliding his arm around her waist as everyone surged forward to congratulate them. Camera phones appeared, capturing their perfect moment. I stood frozen in the doorway, still holding my purse, watching my graduation party transform into my sister's engagement celebration right before my eyes. "Isn't it wonderful?" Mum appeared beside me again, her voice breathless with excitement. "Nicholas proposed last week, but they wanted to wait until tonight to announce it properly. When Sadie suggested combining it with your little graduation thing, I thought it was perfect. 2 birds, 1 stone. My little graduation thing. 7 years of night classes, student loans that would follow me to my grave, countless hours studying while working full-time to pay for it all, reduced to a little thing that could be tacked onto my sister's big moment." "Where should I put my purse?" I managed to ask. "Oh, just toss it anywhere, actually, here." Mum thrust a frilly apron at me. "Could you help in the kitchen? The caterers are running behind and you know how these things go." I stared at the apron. Pink gingham with little hearts embroidered along the edges. The kind of thing you'd put on a child playing house. "I just got here, Mum. I haven't even—" "Poppy, please don't be difficult tonight. This is important." Across the room, Dad raised his beer bottle high in the air. A toast to my beautiful daughter Sadie and her brilliant future husband Nicholas. Everyone cheered again. Sadie beamed, pressing her face against Nicholas's shoulder while he smiled that confident smile of his, the smile of someone who'd never doubted he deserved good things. "Speech! Speech!" Aunt Beatrice called out, already 3 sheets to the wind. "Dad," I called out, my voice cutting through the noise. "What about—" "Shh!" Mum's hand clamped down on my shoulder. "Let them have their moment." Dad launched into a rambling speech about love and commitment and how proud he was of his little princess. He talked about Sadie's beauty, her charm, her bright future ahead. He mentioned how the whole family would support her no matter what dreams she wants to chase. Not once did he mention that his other daughter had just become a lawyer. I tied the apron around my waist with shaking fingers, watching my family celebrate everything I wasn't, everything I'd never be. But here's what none of them knew, what none of them suspected as they toasted and laughed and planned Sadie's perfect future. I held all the cards now, and I was about to play my hand. I escaped to the kitchen, where dirty dishes were already piling up, and the caterers Mom mentioned were nowhere to be found. Typical. I started loading the dishwasher, muscle memory kicking in from years of cleaning up after family gatherings, while Sadie posed for photos. "Need help?" Jose appeared in the doorway, sleeves already rolled up. "You don't have to. Your grandfather would have my hide if he saw me letting you do this alone." He grabbed a dish towel and started drying glasses. "He always said you were the one with backbone in this family." My hands stilled on a wine glass. Grandpa Gus had been gone for 3 years, but Jose still talked about him like he'd just stepped out for cigarettes. "He used to tell me stories, you know," Jose continued, his voice low enough that the party noise covered our conversation, "about how you'd sit with him for hours, asking about his business, his investments. Said you were the only one who cared about anything beyond spending his money." Sadie was just a kid then. Sadie was 21 when he died, Poppy, old enough to visit him in the hospital, old enough to call. I remembered those final weeks. Me, driving to the hospital every day after work, reading legal briefs aloud because Grandpa said my voice helped him think. Sadie, always too busy with her sorority events or her latest boyfriend to make the 20-minute drive. "He left you something important," Jose said quietly, "more important than your parents realise." Before I could ask what he meant, Mom burst through the kitchen door. "Poppy, we need more champagne from the basement, and could you check on the ice situation? Oh, and Sadie's dress has a tiny stain. There's club soda under the sink." "Where's Dad? Can't he—" "Your father is entertaining Nicholas's parents. They just arrived." Mum's voice carried that edge it got when she was stressed about appearances. "Please, honey, just help me get through tonight." I found myself nodding, the way I always did, the way I'd been trained to do since I was old enough to hold a dustpan. In the basement, I grabbed 2 bottles of champagne from Dad's wine fridge, the expensive stuff he usually saved for special occasions. Apparently my law degree didn't qualify, but Sadie's engagement did. That's when I heard them upstairs, Mum and Dad, their voices carrying through the heating vents the way they used to when I was a kid, lying in bed listening to their fights about money. "Perfect timing, really," Mum was saying. "Now that Poppy's got her degree, she can help with the down payment on Sadie's house. Nicholas mentioned they're looking at that development in Westfield." "You think she'll go for it?" Dad's voice sceptical. "She doesn't have a choice. Family comes first, and Sadie's going to need support starting out. Besides, what's Poppy going to do with all that lawyer money? She doesn't have a social life, doesn't travel. She can afford to be generous." My grip tightened on the champagne bottles. "What about this place?" Dad asked. "We could always sell, help them out that way." "Todd, don't be ridiculous. This house has been in your family for generations. Your father would roll over in his grave. My father left it to all of us, Marin. The trust is just paperwork. Poppy handles all that legal nonsense anyway. She'll do what's right for the family." I set the champagne down carefully on the basement steps, my hands shaking. They were planning my future like I was a chess piece, assuming I'd hand over my salary to fund Sadie's dream house, assuming I'd rubber stamp whatever they wanted to do with Grandpa's property. What they didn't know, what I'd never told them, was that Grandpa had made me the legal administrator of the family trust 6 months before he died. Not just a beneficiary, the administrator, the one with actual power over every decision. I climbed the stairs slowly, champagne in hand, and rejoined the party. Sadie was holding court by the fireplace, showing off her ring to a circle of admirers. Nicholas stood behind her, one hand possessively on her shoulder, accepting congratulations like he'd just won the lottery. "There you are," Aunt Beatrice grabbed my arm, swaying slightly. "Your sister is just glowing, isn't she? And that ring, Nicholas must really love her to spend that kind of money." "It's beautiful," I managed. "You know, dear, your time will come. Maybe once you're settled in your career, you'll meet someone nice, someone who doesn't mind that you're so serious all the time." I smiled and nodded, the way I'd been doing all night, the way I'd been doing my whole life, but inside I was calculating, reviewing trust documents in my head, remembering every clause, every condition Grandpa had built into his carefully constructed legal framework. They thought they knew what I'd do. They thought they could count on quiet, responsible Poppy to fall in line. They had no idea what was coming. The champagne I'd retrieved from the basement disappeared quickly. By 9 o'clock, everyone was loose and loud, the kind of drunk where secrets start spilling and filters disappear. "Attention, everyone!" Dad climbed onto a chair, swaying slightly as he raised his glass. "I want to make an official toast to my daughter Sadie and her fiancé Nicholas." The room quieted, all eyes turning toward the happy couple. Sadie practically glowed under the attention, her hand resting on Nicholas's chest like she was claiming territory. "Sadie has always been our sunshine," Dad continued, his voice thick with emotion and alcohol. "From the day she was born, she's brought joy to everyone around her, and Nicholas, son, you're getting the best girl in the world." "Here, here," someone called out. "To Sadie and Nicholas," Mom chimed in, appearing beside Dad with her own glass raised. "May your future be as bright as your love." The room erupted in cheers and applause. I stood in the corner by the kitchen door, still wearing that ridiculous apron, watching my family celebrate everything I wasn't. "And to family," Mom added, her voice carrying over the noise. "To the people who will always support you, no matter what dreams you chase, no matter what you need to succeed." More cheers, more clapping. Nicholas pulled Sadie close and kissed her, and everyone awed like they were watching a romantic movie. I cleared my throat and stepped forward. I'd like to say something too. The room turned toward me, surprised. Mum's smile faltered slightly. "Of course, honey," Dad said, though he looked confused about why the help wanted to make a speech. I untied the apron and set it on the nearest table, smoothing down my simple black dress, the one I'd worn thinking this was my graduation party. "I want to toast to truth," I said, raising the glass of champagne I'd poured for myself. "To justice, to people finally getting exactly what they deserve." A few people nodded along, not really listening. Sadie beamed at me, probably thinking I was being sweet and supportive. "To consequences," I continued, my voice steady. "To the moment when all your careful planning finally pays off." Dad chuckled. "That's our Poppy, always the philosopher." "And to family," I finished, looking directly at Mom, "to the people who really know what loyalty means." "Cheers!" everyone shouted, glasses clinking together in a symphony of crystal and celebration. I took a sip of my champagne and stepped back, letting the party swirl around me again. But as I turned toward the kitchen, Jose caught my elbow. "Walk with me," he said quietly. We stepped onto the back patio, where the night air was cool and the party noise became a distant hum. "Your grandfather always said you'd know what to do when the time came," Jose said, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. "He used to worry about you, you know, said you were too good for your own good." "What do you mean?" "He saw how they treated you, how they took and never gave back." Jose took a long drag. "That's why he made sure you had options." "Jose, what are you talking about?" He studied my face in the porch light. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. The trust, the real power he left you." My heart hammered against my ribs. "How do you—" "I was there when he signed the papers, Poppy. I witnessed the whole thing. He made me promise to speak up if anyone ever tried to challenge your authority." Jose flicked ash into the darkness. "He said someday you'd need to use that power, and when you did, you'd need someone who could back you up." Through the sliding glass door, I could see Sadie and Nicholas posing for more photos, surrounded by admiring relatives. Mum was directing the photographer, making sure every angle was perfect. "They're planning to sell the house," I said quietly. "I figured as much. Your mother mentioned something to Beatrice about liquidating assets for Sadie's future. They think I'll just go along with it, sign whatever papers they put in front of me." Jose dropped his cigarette and ground it under his heel. "Will you?" I watched my family through the glass, My parents beaming with pride, my sister glowing with happiness, everyone celebrating a future built on assumptions about my compliance. "No," I said. "I don't think I will." Jose nodded slowly. "Your grandfather would be proud." "Would he? Even if what I'm planning to do tears this family apart?" "Poppy, look around. This family was already torn apart. You were just the only one holding the pieces together." He headed toward the door, then paused. "Whatever you decide to do, you won't be doing it alone." I stayed on the patio for another few minutes, listening to the laughter and music drifting from inside. Tomorrow I'd go back to my apartment and start my new job at the law firm. I'd begin the life I'd worked so hard to build. But tonight I was going to give my family exactly what they deserved. I pulled out my phone and opened my email, scrolling to the folder labelled Trust Documents. Time to remind everyone who really held the cards. I slipped upstairs to Dad's home office while the party raged below. The room still smelled like Grandpa's pipe tobacco, even 3 years later. His old leather chair sat behind the desk, where Dad now paid bills and pretended to manage the family finances. I pulled up the trust documents on Dad's computer, my fingers flying across the keyboard. Everything was there just as I remembered. The Parker Family Trust, established 1987, updated 2019. Grandpa had been thorough, painfully thorough. The printer hummed to life as I scrolled through the clauses I'd memorized during law school. Section 12.3 was the one that mattered most. The trust administrator shall have sole discretion over property disposition, including but not limited to sale, lease, or occupancy termination, particularly in cases where beneficiaries demonstrate patterns of financial irresponsibility or unfair treatment of other beneficiaries. "Poppy?" Sadie's voice drifted up the stairs. "Where are you?" I minimized the browser window and grabbed a random book from Dad's shelf just as she appeared in the doorway. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere." She floated into the room, her white dress rustling like angel wings. "What are you doing up here?" "Just needed some quiet. It's loud down there." "It's a party, silly. It's supposed to be loud." She perched on the edge of the desk, her engagement ring catching the lamplight. "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For being so cool about tonight. I know Mum said this was supposed to be your graduation thing, but honestly, this worked out so much better. Way more people came for an engagement party than would have come for just a graduation." Just a graduation. 7 years of my life reduced to just something. "I mean, you understand, right?" Sadie continued, examining her manicure. "This is like a once-in-a-lifetime moment for me. You can graduate any time, but I'm only going to get engaged once. Hopefully." She laughed, missing the edge in my voice entirely. "Nicholas's parents are so impressed with the house. His mum asked if it's been in the family long." "Since 1987, when Grandpa bought it." "Right. Well, she was saying how smart it would be for us to buy something in this neighbourhood, you know, for when we have kids." Sadie's eyes sparkled with future plans. "Mum thinks we could get a really good price if we sold this place. It's way too big for just Mum and Dad anyway." The printer finished its job with a soft beep. Sadie glanced at it curiously. "What are you printing?" "Just some legal stuff, boring paperwork." "Ugh, I don't know how you stand all that legal mumbo-jumbo. I'd die of boredom." She slid off the desk and smoothed her dress. "Anyway, I should get back. Nicholas's dad wants to talk to Dad about golf or something equally boring." She started toward the door, then turned back with that smile that had been getting her out of trouble since she was 5. "Oh, and Poppy, Mum mentioned you might be able to help us with the down payment on our house. You know, since you're going to be making lawyer money now and you don't really have any expenses." "Don't have any expenses?" "Well, you know what I mean. You're not exactly the shopping type, and it's not like you're planning a wedding or anything." She shrugged like my entire life was just empty space waiting to be filled with her needs. "Family helps family, right?" She disappeared back downstairs, leaving me alone with the trust documents and a rage so pure it made my hands shake. I gathered the printed pages and headed for my old bedroom, where I kept a small filing cabinet from my law school days. Inside, I found what I was looking for, template legal forms I'd used for practice exercises. 20 minutes later, I had everything I needed. The party was winding down when I came back downstairs. Some guests had already left, and others were gathering coats and purses. Aunt Beatrice was holding court in the living room, her voice carrying over the music. "Always knew Sadie would marry well," she was saying to anyone who'd listen. "That girl has had boys chasing her since she was 12. Not like poor Poppy, bless her heart." "Beatrice," Mum's voice held a warning. "Oh, I'm not being mean. Poppy's got other qualities. She's very practical, very responsible, the kind of girl who'll take care of her parents in their old age, while her sister lives her fairy tale." I walked past them toward the kitchen, where Jose was helping clean up. "You look different," he said, studying my face. "Do I?" "Like you've made a decision." I folded the papers I'd printed and slipped them into my purse. "Jose, do you still have that business card? The one for the process server you used when your ex-wife tried to hide assets?" He raised an eyebrow. "I might. Why?" "I'm going to need someone who can work weekends." "Poppy, they want to sell Grandpa's house to buy Sadie her dream home. They want me to fund it with my salary. They think I'll just smile and sign whatever they put in front of me." Jose nodded slowly. "And you're not going to do that?" "No, I'm not. What are you going to do?" I looked through the doorway at my family, Mum directing the clean-up like a general, Dad shaking hands with Nicholas's father, Sadie posing for one last photo by the fireplace. I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve. 3 days later, I stood in my childhood living room wearing my best navy suit, the one I'd bought for job interviews. The same room where they'd celebrated Sadie's engagement while I served drinks in a frilly apron. "Family meeting." Dad looked confused as he settled into his recliner. "Poppy, it's Saturday morning. Can't this wait?" "No, it can't." I set my briefcase on the coffee table with a satisfying click. "Everyone needs to be here." Mom emerged from the kitchen, still in her bathrobe. "Honey, what's this about? You sounded so serious on the phone." "Where's Sadie?" "She's at Nicholas's parents' house looking at wedding venues. You know how busy she is with planning." "Call her. She needs to be here too." "Poppy, really, what's gotten into you?" Mum's voice carried that familiar edge of irritation. "We're not all going to drop everything just because you want to have some dramatic family meeting." I pulled out my phone and dialed Sadie's number. It went straight to voicemail. "Sadie, it's me. You have 30 minutes to get to the house. This is about the trust, and it affects your future. Don't make me come find you." Dad laughed. "The trust? Poppy, that's just paperwork. Your grandfather left the house to all of us. We've been over this." "Have we?" I opened my briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Because I don't think we have." The front door slammed, and Sadie's voice echoed through the hallway. "This better be important, Poppy. Nicholas's mum was showing me the most gorgeous venue, and I had to leave in the middle of—" She stopped short when she saw me in my suit, briefcase open, papers spread across the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. "What's all this?" "Sit down, Sadie." "I don't want to sit down. I want to know why you dragged me away from wedding planning for some weird family meeting." "Because this affects your wedding. And your future. And everyone else's future too." Nicholas appeared behind her, car keys still in his hand. "Sorry, I gave her a ride. Should I wait outside?" "No," I said. "You should probably hear this too." Mum perched on the edge of the couch, her face tight with worry. "Poppy, you're scaring me. What's wrong?" I pulled out the first document, the original trust agreement, signed and notarized. "Dad, you said Grandpa left the house to all of us. That's not exactly true." "Of course it is. We're all beneficiaries." "Beneficiaries, yes, but not administrators." I set the paper in front of him. "There's a difference." Dad picked up the document, squinting at the legal language. "I don't understand all this lawyer talk. Let me translate." I pulled out a second document. "Grandpa appointed me as the sole administrator of the trust. That means I make all decisions about the property, including who gets to live here." The room went dead silent. "That's ridiculous," Mum said finally. You were barely out of college when he died. He wouldn't have given you that kind of responsibility. He gave it to me because I was the only one who visited him in the hospital, the only one who cared about his business, the only one who didn't just see him as a bank account." Sadie's face flushed red. "That's not fair. I was busy with school." "You were busy with your sorority formal. I remember because you asked me to cover your shift at the restaurant so you could go dress shopping." "Poppy, that's enough," Dad said, but his voice lacked conviction. I pulled out the third document, the one I prepared 3 days ago. "This is a notice of lease termination. You have 30 days to vacate the premises." "What?" Mum's voice cracked like a whip. "I'm evicting you, all of you." The silence that followed was deafening. Then everyone started talking at once. "You can't do this. This is insane. Poppy, stop this right now." "She's lost her mind." I stood up, and something in my posture made them all shut up. "I can do this. I am doing this. The trust gives me full authority over occupancy decisions, especially when beneficiaries demonstrate patterns of financial irresponsibility or unfair treatment of other beneficiaries." "Unfair treatment?" Dad's face was turning purple. "We've given you everything. We put a roof over your head, food on your table." "You put me to work. There's a difference." Nicholas stepped forward, his lawyer instincts kicking in. "This doesn't seem legal. You can't just kick family members out of their own home." "It's not their home, it's the trust's home, and I'm the administrator." I handed him a copy of the eviction notice. "Feel free to have your family's lawyers review it. Everything's in order." Sadie burst into tears. "Poppy, please! We're getting married in 6 months. Where are we supposed to live?" "I don't know, Sadie. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to sell this house to fund your dream wedding." Mum's face went white. "How did you—" "I heard you, that night at the party, planning my future like I was a chess piece, assuming I'd just hand over my salary to make Sadie's dreams come true." "We're family." Mum's voice rose to a shriek. "Family helps family." "You're right," I said, snapping my briefcase shut. "Family does help family, but I'm not your family's unpaid servant anymore." I walked toward the door, then turned back. 30 days. I'll be back with the sheriff if you're not out by then." The last thing I heard as I closed the door was Sadie's sobbing and Mum screaming my name. It was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. My phone started ringing before I even reached my car. Mum's contact photo flashed on the screen, her smiling face from last Christmas, back when I still believed in family harmony. I let it go to voicemail. By the time I got home to my apartment, I had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The voicemails ranged from Mum's tearful pleas to Dad's angry demands to Sadie's hysterical sobbing. The texts were worse. "You're destroying this family." "How can you be so cruel? Grandpa would be ashamed of you. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us." I was deleting the messages when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole I saw a man I hadn't seen in over 5 years, my Uncle Manuel, Mum's brother. "Hello, Poppy." He looked older, greyer, but his smile was genuine. "Mind if I come in?" "Uncle Manuel, what are you doing here?" "Your mother called me. She's upset." I let him in, wondering why Mum would reach out to the brother she'd cut out of her life years ago over some family drama I barely understood. "Coffee?" I offered. "Please." He settled onto my couch, looking around my small but tidy apartment. "Nice place. You've done well for yourself." "Thanks. So why are you really here?" Manuel accepted the coffee mug with steady hands. "Because your mother is panicking, and when Maren panics she makes mistakes. Big ones." "What kind of mistakes?" "The kind that involve calling me after 5 years of silence, begging me to talk sense into you." He took a sip of coffee. "She seems to think I have some influence over you." "Do you?" "I hope not. I hope you're smart enough to make your own decisions." He set down the mug and leaned forward. "But I think you should know what you're really dealing with." "What do you mean?" "Your mother didn't just call me to play family mediator, Poppy. She called me because she's desperate. and desperate people confess things they've kept hidden for years. My stomach tightened. What did she confess? Manuel pulled out his phone and scrolled through his messages. She told me about the second mortgage she and Todd took out on the house 3 years ago, the one they never paid back. What? $50,000 borrowed against the property without telling anyone. They used it to pay for Sadie's sorority fees, her spring break trips, that car she crashed senior year. He showed me a screenshot of a text message. They've been in default for 8 months. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. That's impossible. I would have known. I handle all the trust paperwork. They forged your signature on the loan documents, listed you as a co-signer without your knowledge. The coffee mug slipped from my fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. They what? Identity theft, fraud, forgery, take your pick. Your mother was crying so hard she could barely get the words out. Manuel's voice was grim. She said they were planning to sell the house to pay off the loan before anyone found out. Using my authority as administrator. Exactly. They figured you'd sign whatever they put in front of you, just like always. I sank into my chair, my mind racing. The bank could foreclose. They could take the house. They could, but they won't, because you just saved everyone's ass by evicting them. Manuel smiled grimly. As administrator, you can negotiate with the bank, set up a payment plan, maybe even contest the fraudulent loan. Why are you telling me this? Why are you helping me? Manuel's expression darkened. Because your mother destroyed my relationship with this family over money once before. She convinced your father I was trying to steal from Grandpa Gus, turned everyone against me over a business deal that would have made us all rich. I remember you disappearing. Mom said you'd betrayed the family somehow. I tried to get your grandfather to invest in a tech startup. Your mother convinced him I was running a scam, that I was trying to steal his retirement money. Manuel laughed bitterly. That startup was Google, Poppy. We'd all be millionaires right now if she hadn't poisoned that well. My phone buzzed with another text from Sadie. Please call me. We can work this out. I love you. She's scared, I said, showing Manuel the message. She should be. Nicholas's family is old money, old values. They don't marry into families with financial scandals. He stood up, brushing off his jeans. Your sister's perfect life is about to come crashing down, and for once it's not your job to catch the pieces. What should I do? Whatever you think is right. But remember, they made these choices. They forged your name, stole your identity, planned to sell your inheritance out from under you. Manuel headed for the door, then paused. Your grandfather always said you were the smart one. Time to prove him right. After he left, I sat in my quiet apartment, surrounded by broken coffee mug pieces and the wreckage of everything I'd believed about my family. My phone rang again. This time it was Jose. Poppy, you need to see the news. Channel 7, right now. I grabbed the remote and flipped to the local news station. A perfectly coiffed reporter stood outside my childhood home, microphone in hand. Family drama that has neighbours talking tonight. Sources say a bitter inheritance dispute has torn apart the Parker family, with one daughter evicting her own parents and sister from their longtime family home. The camera panned to show Sadie on the front porch, tears streaming down her face as she spoke to another reporter. My sister has lost her mind, she sobbed. She's destroying our family over money, over greed. I turned off the TV and smiled. Let the games begin. 30 days later, I stood on the front porch of my childhood home with a sheriff's deputy and a locksmith. The moving truck idled in the driveway, its diesel engine rumbling like a mechanical heartbeat. You sure about this, miss? Deputy Rodriguez asked, checking his paperwork one more time. Once we change these locks, that's it, no going back. I'm sure. The front door opened before we could knock. Dad stood there in wrinkled clothes, his hair uncombed, looking like he'd aged 10 years in a month. Poppy, please, can we talk about this? The time for talking was 30 days ago. Mum appeared behind him, her eyes red and swollen. Honey, we're family. We can work this out. Where's Sadie? She's... Mum's voice cracked. She's staying with Nicholas. For now. For now? Dad cleared his throat. His parents aren't too happy about the media attention. They're asking Nicholas to reconsider the engagement. The locksmith stepped forward. Ma'am, I need to get started if we're doing this today. I nodded and handed him the new keys. Change everything. Front door, back door, garage, basement. Poppy, stop! Mum grabbed my arm. You can't do this to us. We're your parents. You forged my signature on loan documents. You committed identity theft. You planned to steal my inheritance. I pulled free from her grip. What kind of parents do that? We were desperate, Dad's voice broke. The business has been struggling, and Sadie needed to learn that actions have consequences. So did you. The moving truck driver approached with a clipboard. Where do you want us to put their stuff? I'd rented a storage unit across town, the cheapest one I could find. Unit 247 at Store All on Maple Street, the keys in the office. You're putting our belongings in storage? Mum's voice rose to a shriek. Like we're common criminals? You are criminals. You committed fraud. We're not pressing charges, Deputy Rodriguez said quietly. The administrator has decided not to pursue criminal prosecution at this time. Dad's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you, Poppy. I knew you wouldn't. Don't thank me yet. I'm not pressing charges because I want you gone, not in jail. But if you ever try to contact me again, if you ever forge my name on anything again, I will prosecute. And next time, you won't get off with just eviction. The locksmith's drill whirred to life, drowning out Mum's sobs. Neighbours had gathered on their porches and lawns, pretending to water plants or check mailboxes while watching the drama unfold. The whole neighbourhood's watching, Dad muttered. Good, let them see what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. A black sedan pulled up to the curb, and Nicholas got out, his face grim. Sadie emerged from the passenger side, her designer sunglasses hiding her eyes, but not the tear tracks on her cheeks. Poppy! Sadie ran toward me, her heels clicking on the pavement. Please, you have to stop this. Nicholas's parents are making him choose between me and his family. Then he should choose his family. That's what you always told me to do. That's different. You don't understand what it's like to lose everything. I laughed, a harsh sound that made everyone flinch. I don't understand. Sadie, I've been losing everything my whole life. My childhood, my college fund, my graduation party, my future salary, all sacrificed for your happiness. The only difference is now you get to feel what it's like. Nicholas stepped forward, his jaw tight. This is insane, Poppy. You're destroying your own family over money. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just refusing to be destroyed anymore. My parents think Sadie's family is unstable. They're questioning whether she's suitable for our family. Maybe they're right. Sadie gasped like I'd slapped her. How can you say that? I'm your sister. Sisters don't steal from each other. Sisters don't forge each other's names on legal documents. Sisters don't plan to sell each other's inheritance without permission. The movers emerged from the house carrying furniture. Mum's antique dining set, Dad's recliner, boxes labelled Sadie's room in my mother's careful handwriting. Where are we supposed to go? Mum asked, her voice small and broken. I don't know. Figure it out the way I had to figure out how to pay for law school, the way I had to figure out how to build a life while supporting all of you. We gave you a home, Dad protested. You gave me a job. There's a difference. The locksmith finished with the front door and moved to the back of the house. The sound of his drill echoed through the neighbourhood like a funeral dirge. This isn't over, Mum said, her voice hardening. Family is family, Poppy. You'll regret this. You'll come crawling back and we might not forgive you. I looked at her, really looked at her, for what felt like the first time in years. The woman who'd raised me to be grateful for scraps, who'd taught me that my worth was measured by my usefulness to others. No, I said quietly. I won't. I turned and walked toward my car, leaving them standing in the driveway with their boxes and their broken dreams. Behind me, I heard the final click of the new locks sliding into place. The house felt different without them. Quieter, but not empty. Peaceful in a way it had never been when I was growing up. I'd moved in the day after the eviction, trading my cramped apartment for the sprawling home where I'd spent my childhood being invisible. I was painting the living room when the doorbell rang. Through the window I saw Jose standing on the porch with a bottle of wine and a nervous smile. "Housewarming gift," he said when I opened the door. "Though I guess it's more like a house-reclaiming gift. Come in, fair warning, everything's a mess." He looked around at the drop cloths and paint cans, the furniture pushed to the centre of the room. "Looks like freedom to me." We sat in the kitchen, the only room I hadn't started renovating yet. Jose poured wine into coffee mugs. I hadn't unpacked the good glasses yet. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "Better than expected. The bank was surprisingly reasonable about the fraudulent loan. Turns out they don't like it when people forge signatures either." "And your family?" I shrugged. "Mum and Dad are renting a 2-bedroom apartment across town. Dad got a job at the hardware store. Mum's working at the department store in the mall." "That must be humbling for her." "Probably good for her. She's learning what it's like to work for someone else's dreams, instead of just expecting other people to fund hers." Jose raised his mug. "And Sadie?" "Nicholas broke up with her 2 weeks ago. His parents made it clear she wasn't welcome in their family." I took a sip of wine. "She's living with Mum and Dad, working at a coffee shop downtown." "How do you feel about that?" I considered the question. "I feel nothing, which is probably the healthiest thing I've felt about Sadie in years." "No guilt?" "Why should I feel guilty? I didn't forge anyone's signature. I didn't plan to steal anyone's inheritance. I didn't spend 26 years treating someone like an unpaid servant." I set down my mug. "They made their choices. I just stopped enabling them." The doorbell rang again. This time it was Uncle Manuel, carrying a toolbox and wearing work clothes. "Heard you might need help with renovations," he said. "I can't pay you." "I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for a chance to be part of this family again." He looked around the kitchen. "Your grandfather would have loved seeing you in this house, making it your own." "You think so?" "I know so. He used to tell me you were the only one who understood what he was trying to build here. Not just a house, but a legacy. Something that would last." We spent the afternoon working together, Manuel fixing a leaky faucet while I continued painting. It felt good to have family in the house again, the right kind of family. "Poppy!" Manuel called from under the sink. "You've got visitors." Through the kitchen window I saw a familiar car in the driveway. My stomach clenched as Mum and Sadie got out, both looking nervous and defeated. I opened the door before they could knock. "We need to talk," Mum said. "No, we don't." "Please." Sadie's voice was barely a whisper. "Just 5 minutes." I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me. "Say what you came to say." Mum's hands shook as she pulled an envelope from her purse. "This is for you. It's what we owe you, for the loan, for everything." I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000, exactly the amount of the fraudulent loan. "Where did you get this money?" "I sold my engagement ring," Sadie said quietly, "and Mum sold her jewellery. Dad sold his golf clubs and his tools." "It's not enough," Mum added quickly. "It'll never be enough to make up for what we did, but it's a start." I looked at the cheque, then at their faces. Mum looked older, worn down by months of actual work. Sadie looked smaller somehow, like the world had finally shown her she wasn't its princess. "Keep it," I said, handing the cheque back. "What? Keep the money? Use it to build your own lives instead of trying to steal mine?" "Poppy, please," Sadie started. "I'm not your sister anymore. I'm not your daughter anymore. I'm not your safety net or your backup plan or your source of emergency funds." I looked at each of them in turn. "I'm just someone you used to know." "You can't mean that," Mum whispered. "I do mean it, and you know what? It feels amazing." I went back inside, leaving them on the porch with their apologies and their guilt money. Manuel looked up from his work. "You okay?" "I'm perfect." And for the first time in my life, I actually meant it. People say karma comes for you eventually, but sometimes you have to be the one ringing the doorbell. Sometimes you have to serve it yourself, with legal papers and new locks and the kind of boundaries that can't be crossed. My phone buzzed with a text from Jose. "Proud of you, kid. Your grandfather would be too." I smiled and got back to painting. I had a house to make into a home. My home, built on my terms, painted in colours I chose. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever created.